A 12-year-old stumbles into a Kansas school, her swollen belly a scream ripping through the silence. Her burned diary's ashes unleash a town's festering shame. Feel the crisp bite of a fall morning in Topeka, Kansas. Dry leaves scrape across the pavement, the air sharp with a chill that claws at your skin. It's 8 a.m. at Topeka Middle School. Lockers slam with a metallic clang. Kids' laughter bounces off the walls, a chaotic hum filling the halls. Then Clara Hayes creeps in. Her blonde hair a tangled mess. Her jacket stretched tight over a bulge that sucks the air from the room. Her hazel eyes darting like a deer caught in headlights. The hallway freezes. A boy's voice cracks. "No, her stomach!" A teacher's books hit the floor with a thud, papers scattering. The principal's shout slices through. "Nurse, get her now!" Clara staggers to the office, her sneakers squeaking on the tile, clutching a scorched diary, its edges black and curling, her voice a trembling whisper to Nurse Lynn. "They burned it. I saved what I could. Don't let them know." Lynn's hands shake, her breath hitching. "Clara, who did this?" Clara's lips quiver. "Read it. They'll kill me." Lynn flips a brittle page, the words smeared but searing. "Dad said I'm his secret," Uncle Tim watched. Her gasp echoes, sharp and raw, as she dials Dr. Rachel Kim. "Rachel, hurry! This girl's pregnant and she's scared out of her mind!" Rachel, 40, her dark eyes burning with a mother's grief, her own daughter lost to neglect years ago, drops her pen, the clinic's coffee scalding her throat as she bolts out the door. She bursts into the office, the antiseptic sting fading, finding Clara hunched over, diary scraps fluttering like dying moths. Lynn chokes out, "She said Dad and Tim." Outside, kids press their noses to the glass, their whispers a rising storm. Parents swarm the lot, tires screeching. Rachel kneels, her voice steady but trembling inside. "Clara, I'm Rachel. You're safe with me." But Clara thrusts the charred pages forward, her fingers trembling. "They did it. Save us." Rachel reads, "Tim said it's our turn," and her heart plummets, a cold dread pooling in her. This isn't just a pregnancy. It's a wound tearing Topeka wide open, and the air crackles with the promise of a reckoning. Clara's a fragile shadow, 4'9", all sharp bones and whispered dreams, the girl who vanishes into Topeka's endless plains with her pencil and shy glances. She lives in a sagging trailer off Route 75, the wind rattling its tin walls, with her dad, Matt, a hulking figure with calloused hands, her mom, Diane, a ghost locked in her room since a so-called breakdown, and Uncle Tim, Matt's brother, a mechanic with a smile that hides teeth like a wolf's. Now, her belly's a thunderbolt. 8 months swollen, a weight that drags her small frame down. And the school's a battlefield, voices clashing like shattered glass. Rachel stands in the nurse's office, her pulse hammering. "Clara, tell me what happened. Anything." Clara's silent, her breath shallow, clutching the diary's ashes as if they're her last shield, the faint smell of smoke clinging to her hands. Lynn's voice quakes, her eyes wide. "She said Matt and Tim. I've called CPS, Rachel, but this is a nightmare." Rachel nods, her stomach twisting into knots. Her daughter's tiny shoes still haunt her closet, a guilt she can't shake. "Ultrasound, now!" she snaps, her tone cutting through the haze. The machine whirs to life, its hum a low growl, and a heartbeat thuds through the room, fast, alive, impossibly real. Rachel's breath catches. How did no one see this? Parents pound the door, their fists a drumbeat of fury. Who did this to her? Kids outside murmur, their voices a rising tide. She's that quiet girl. Pregnant. The principal stammers, his tie askew. Matt's coming, he's at the site. Rachel's skin crawls. Matt, a storm of a man, Tim his slick shadow. She scans a burned scrap. Dad burned it after. Tim said I'd pay if I talked. Clara's whisper slices through, frail but desperate. They'll take her. Don't let them. Rachel's blood ignites, a fire roaring in her chest. 2 names, 1 unspeakable sin. She grabs her phone, her voice steel. CPS, this is Matt and Tim. Get here fast. The room pulses with the stench of sweat and dread, the diary's ashes bitter on her tongue, and Rachel's all in. These scraps are Clara's cry, and she'll fight through hell to answer it. The school's a howling chaos. Yellow police tape snaps in the wind. Kids scatter like startled birds. Topeka PD barrels in, sirens wailing a jagged tune. Rachel rides with Clara to Stormont Vale Hospital, the stretcher rattling over asphalt, Clara's small hands gripping the diary scraps, her knuckles white as bone. Lynn sits beside her, her face drained. She's shaking, won't let go of those pages. In the ER, Dr. Ben Patel leaps forward, his voice tight. Contractions, 2 minutes apart, C-section now. Rachel nods, her heart pounding against her ribs. Keep them breathing. Go. The operating room flares under blinding lights. Clara lies still, her chest rising and falling in shallow gasps. The scalpel flashes. A baby girl's cry rips through, raw and piercing like a blade through silence. Ben wipes sweat from his brow, his voice a ragged sigh. Stable, both holding on. Rachel whispers, joy. Under her breath, a name born from this fragile, trembling victory. Then Matt crashes through the hospital doors, his boots thundering on the tile, his voice a bellow. Where's my Clara? Rachel steps into his path, her stance unyielding, her tone ice cold. She's safe, you don't get near her. He snarls, his breath hot with rage. She's lying, always spinning tales. Too quick, too smooth, Rachel's seen that lie in eyes like his before. She holds up a singed page, her voice steady. Your name's here, Dad said no one'll know. Matt's face twists, that's garbage, his fists clench, veins bulging. Rachel feels the rot radiating off him. Tim slinks in behind, his mechanic's grin faltering. What's she saying now? Rachel's glare cuts to him. You're in this too, Tim said, burn it. Tim chuckles, a hollow sound. She's off her rocker. CPS storms in, Agent Kim's voice a whip. Clara's under our protection, no contact. Matt roars, his face red. You can't take her. A cop interrupts, his breath short. Trailers shed, locked tight, bloody sheets inside. Rachel's pulse spikes, not just Matt, Tim too. The diary's faint crackle echoes in her ears. Tim said burn it all, and her resolve hardens to steel. Clara's not going back. Not to that shed, not to those hands, not ever. Clara lies in recovery, her blonde hair splayed across the pillow like a halo of straw, the IV dripping slow and steady. Joy's tiny cries echo from the NICU down the hall, a sound that claws at Rachel's heart. She sits close, her voice soft but fierce. You're incredible, Clara, I'm right here with you. Clara's whisper trembles, barely audible over the beep of machines. They'll hurt her. Hide it, please. Rachel's throat tightens. A lump of fury and sorrow. She lifts a burned page, the ink bleeding into ash. Dad said I'm his prize. Tim said I'm next. Her hands shake as she dials Agent Kim, her tone urgent. It's Matt and Tim. DNA them both now. Kim's voice crackles back. Cops are ripping through the trailer as we speak. Meanwhile, Matt paces the waiting room, his boots stomping a furious rhythm, his shout echoing off the walls. She's my daughter. You've got nothing on me. Rachel strides out, her eyes locked on his, her stance unshaken. Clara's terrified of you. Why is that? He smirks, his lip curling. She's a wild kid, makes up stories. Tim leans in, his voice oily. Always been a liar. Their gazes flicker. Rachel smells the lie, thick and sour. Then, a cop barrels in, panting. Shed's got knives, blood on them, not hers. Rachel's breath stops. Whose blood? Matt stammers, his voice rough. Old junk, nothing. Tim snaps. You're grasping at straws. Kim's call cuts through. DNA's in. Matt's the father. Tim's prints on the locks. Rachel's fury erupts, a wildfire in her veins. She rushes back to Clara, kneeling low. They're finished. You're free. Clara's sobs break, her small frame shuddering. Tim said they'd sell her. Dad laughed. Rachel's stomach lurches. A sale? The hospital air hangs heavy with antiseptic and dread. The diary's ashes gritty between her fingers, and she's tearing into this nightmare. Clara's voice will not be silenced. The ER's a pressure cooker. Cops drag in rusted locks, bloody sheets flapping like ghosts, Matt's denials crumbling under the weight of truth. Rachel stays with Clara, her voice a lifeline. You're untouchable now. I've got you. Clara clutches Joy's blanket, its soft wool trembling in her grip, her nod faint but real. Kim's voice cuts through the phone. Matt's DNA's a match. Tim's an accomplice, no question. Rachel's blood roars, a tidal wave of rage, but that blood on the knives gnaws at her. Who else bled in that shed? She calls Debtor Sarah Holt, her words sharp. Check, Diane, something's not right. Sarah grunts. She's a recluse, barely leaves. Hours later, her tone shifts, urgency lacing her words. Diane's awake, lucid as day, been faking it. Rachel's jaw drops. Diane's sane? Meanwhile, Matt's hauled in, cuffed and snarling. Clara's a filthy liar. Rachel slams the diary scraps on the table, her voice a blade. She wrote your name. He cracks, his growl breaking. All right, I did it. Tim was in on it. Tim shouts, his face pale, sweat beading. He forced me, swear it. Then a woman shuffles through the station doors, thin as a reed, her eyes wild and wet. I'm Diane, where's my Clara? Rachel staggers. Diane, alive and sharp? They locked me in, said I'd ruin everything. Diane's voice breaks, a wail of guilt. I knew, I let it happen. Rachel's words cut like glass. You covered for them? Diane nods, tears streaming, hands shaking. For Tim, for the family. 3 monsters, Matt, Tim, Diane, bound by a pact of filth. Rachel's chest heaves, her mind reeling. This isn't just a crime, it's a town's betrayal, and the air chokes with the stench of it. Diane's confession lands like a sledgehammer. Rachel snaps, her voice raw. You knew and did nothing? Diane crumples, her knees buckling, her breath a shattered whisper. They'd kill me. I played broken to live. Matt laughs from his cell, a guttural sound. She's the puppet master, planned it all. Tim hisses, his grin gone, eyes darting. She's lying through her teeth. Rachel's stomach churns, bile rising, 3 beasts in human skin. Kim steps in, her tone iron, her verdict final. All 3 charged, abuse, trafficking, the works. Clara overhears from her bed, her tears silent rivers down her cheeks. Mom too? Rachel kneels, her hands gentle on Clara's trembling shoulders. She failed you, sweetheart. I won't. Sarah's voice crackles over the line. Diary scraps say more. Mom said it's our shame. Keep it quiet. Cops storm the shed, boots thudding on dirt, and unearth a stash. Crumpled bills, a scrawled list. Baby to buy $100K. Rachel confronts Diane, her eyes blazing, fury rising like a storm. You were selling joy? Chokes, her voice a sob, a confession dripping with guilt. Tim's idea, I said yes. Matt bellows, his rage a weapon. She ran the show. Tim snarls, his mask cracking. All lies. Diane's whisper cuts deeper than any scream, her lips trembling. Buyers coming, soon. Rachel's fury explodes, a scream trapped in her throat, a deal ticking down to disaster. Clara's voice trembles, fragile but fierce. Joy's mine. Don't let them take her. Rachel pulls her close, feeling her small body shake. Her daughter's ghost fades. Clara's heartbeat, her new anchor. The hospital vibrates with tension, machines humming a grim chorus, and Rachel's racing against a shadow. She'll burn this shame to the ground before it claims another soul. Days drag like a slow bleed. Matt, Tim and Diane rot behind bars, the trailer sealed off, its tin walls silent as a tomb. Clara heals in her hospital bed, Joy's tiny cries a fragile thread pulling her back, each wail a stab of hope through Rachel's chest. She sits beside her, voice thick with awe. You're unstoppable, Clara. You've beaten them, Clara murmurs, her words soft as a prayer. Joy's my reason to keep going. Rachel's eyes blur, tears stinging. Redemption pulses through her, carried on Clara's quiet strength. Kim's update crackles through. Buyers pinned, a dealer in Wichita nabbed last night. Cops shut it down. Rachel exhales a weightlifting. A nurse bursts in, her voice high, urgent. Clara's aunt Holly's here. Holly storms through the door. Warm eyes, fierce hands. Diane's sister who'd cut ties years ago. I'd have torn them apart if I'd known. CPS clears her in a heartbeat. Clara's gaze lifts, shaky but searching. You're really here? Holly wraps her in a bear hug, her voice breaking. Always, honey. I'm not letting go. Rachel's heart swells. Clara's got a lifeline now, a real one. She leans back, the antiseptic tang sharp in her nose. Her daughter's loss carved this path, a jagged scar through her soul, but saving Clara stitches it shut, thread by thread. Topeka stirs coins clink into donation jars. Candlelight flickers outside the hospital, a town waking from its stupor. Rachel tastes resolve, bitter and strong. Matt's pack is finished, Clara's rising from their ashes, and the buyer's shadow is gone. Weeks crawl by, steady as the Kansas wind. Clara and Joy settle with Holly in a farmhouse near the river, its wooden walls creaking with warmth, Clara's sketches pinned up like bursts of light. Rachel visits, her boots crunching gravel. "You're thriving, Clara, I'm so damn proud." Clara grins, her hazel eyes sparking. "Joy's my whole world. You're ours too." Holly nods, her smile worn but real. "We're tougher than they thought." Matt, Tim, and Diane face life sentences, iron bars slamming shut. The buyer's caught, his network crumbling like dry dirt. Topeka shifts. Schools echo with new lessons on watching, listening. Parents clutch their kids tighter under the wide sky. Rachel reads to Joy, her giggles a melody that soothes the ache. Clara sketches them, her pencil dancing, a trio forged in fire. Kim calls, her voice crisp, case sealed, Clara's free, legally Holly's. Rachel lets out a breath. She didn't know she held. Justice hums a quiet song. Her daughter's ghost slips away. She couldn't save her, but Clara's here, breathing, because Rachel fought tooth and nail. The town rallies. Bake sales fill the air with sugar. A mural rises downtown. Clara's light, scrawled in bold red. Rachel feels peace settle. A soft weight, purpose blooms in Clara's survival, fierce as the prairie sun. The farmhouse glows. Crayons clatter on the table. Laughter spills out the windows, a family rising from ruin. And Rachel knows this is victory, raw and radiant, built on Clara's unbreakable spirit. Spring sweeps in, painting Topeka green. Clara grows taller, Joy's giggles ripple like a creek, Holly's fields burst with wildflowers swaying in the breeze. Rachel drops by, the scent of damp earth in her lungs. "You're incredible, Clara, pure fire in your soul." Clara beams, her hands smudged with charcoal. "Joy's my heart, you're our spark." Holly laughs, wiping dirt from her palms. "She's teaching me how to fight." Neighbours pitch in. Tutoring Clara through missed years, babysitting Joy with tender hands, Topeka wrapping them in a quiet, steady embrace. Matt's trio fades into silence. Justice stands tall, unyielding as the plains. Rachel strums her guitar, the chords low and sweet. Clara draws. Joy naps, her breaths a soft rhythm, peace settling over them like a warm dusk. Her daughter's face blurs in her mind, replaced by Clara's fierce grin, a wound closing, a scar she can touch without flinching. Holly vows, her voice firm, "No more hiding, we're loud and proud now." Rachel breathes in the river air, cool and clean. She's whole again, rebuilt by Clara's courage. The farmhouse pulses. Cartoons flicker on a small screen. Cookies bake, their buttery scent curling through the air. A life clawing free from ashes, proof that kids like Clara can outshine the darkest nights. Topeka softens, its edges smoothing, but Clara's tale rings on. A girl who turned agony into strength, a fire Rachel helped stoke. Summer blazes over Topeka. Clara and Joy saw Holly's porch alive with their voices, a wild, joyful song against the hum of crickets. Rachel swings by, her heart full. "You're a legend, Clara, the toughest spirit I've ever known." Clara smiles, her eyes glinting like sunlight on water. "Joy's my everything, you're ours." Holly pulls her into a tight hug. "We're a team forever, thank you." The past crumbles away. Topeka heals, its scars fading, but Clara's light burns eternal, a beacon in the dust. Rachel strums her guitar, the notes weaving through the warm air. Clara sketches, a future bold and bright spilling from her hands. She steps out, the Kansas River shimmering under the sun, and speaks to you, her voice soft but steady. What would you do if a kid this fierce faced a shame this deep? Hit that like, subscribe to CK Incredible Story. We bring you real, heart-hitting tales straight from Topeka's beating core. Tell us below, could you forgive Diane? This is our beat, raw stories, real soul, every single time. See you next tale. Keep it incredible. And hey, it's getting late out there, isn't it? You've been amazing, riding this storm with us. Go get some rest now, okay? Tuck yourself in, take a deep breath. You deserve that peace after feeling all this. We'll be here, waiting for you with the next story. Clara's burned diary lingers in her mind. A girl, a baby, a triumph forged from ashes, carved deep into your heart by CK Incredible Story.